Welcome back. I'm Mark Littler, the owner and editor-in-chief at the Whisky Wash, and I'm also the owner of Mark Littler Limited. Now, in the last video, we did a run through of a load of bottles that were on this bench in my office. Now, today, I've got to confess I've got a bit of a problem, and the problem is with buying stuff that is related to whiskey that isn't necessarily whiskey itself. And I've been doing this for years, and it's only that when you get it all out and unpacked that you kind of start to see the extent of the problem. So I thought I'd go through all of it, because we've got bits on here that are sort of like nearly 200 years old, and then you've got bits on here from the 1960s, 70s, and even up to the 2010, 2015. So we've got a real mix of whiskey history here. And all of this, what does it represent, all of this? The majority of the bits that are here, they represent sort of like steps in time that are stepping stones for where the brands became today. And the first ugly thing that we've got to look at, I'm afraid, and these, I absolutely love these. These are Macallan. Do you want to guess what they are? Do you know what they are yet? Well, if I take the lid off one of them, you might be able to tell that these are whiskey, well, Macallan ice buckets. So you might recognise the form, because this sleeping barrel man was kind of part of the campaign for the Folio 7, and this is where the Folio 7 took its lead from. There were adverts with these beautiful, ugly, depends on which way you sit on the fence, with these ice buckets, but these were distributed by Macallan. So this one's Stoke by Nayland Golf Club, you've got Outlane Golf Club, and then you've got one here which that's not had the Golf Club name put on there. But you can kind of see Macallan's thinking here, that they were distributing these, like, you know, bar items to places where they thought there'd be discernible people who would drink Macallan, hence the likes of golf clubs. So these would have been sent out by Macallan free of charge to the hotels, restaurants and other places, but mostly golf clubs because these are the golfers. But then you also have, where is another one? Here you go, this one here. They always break, so this one's got a bit snapped off here, but you can see it's got his little creel and the flies here. So this is the fly fishing one, and then this one here hasn't got a cap on, it's just a sleeping barrel. So it's like, quiet please, whiskey sleeping, which is what the Macallan basically had in their on a sign in their warehouses at one point. So again, I should also say, if you want to buy any of this, please get in touch. I'm running out of space, so just if you want to buy any of these things, they're all absolutely for sale, but they're just amazing little bits of artifacts. So these are sort of probably mid to late 1980s, early 1990s. But now let's go back in time another 100 years. Now these are two incredible books of about Islay. So this is called the Stent Book of Islay, 1718 to 1843. So it's a privately published book. And this is essentially, the Stent Book is kind of like the meetings of all the parish councils, or the parish council on the island, and all the notes that they took. So what's interesting in this book though, despite its age, you have all things in here, like what money was being spent for, what salaries people were paying. But again, let's see if we can find an example of it in here. You can find out how much they were drinking as well. See, log timber, what were they buying log timber for? And estimates for a new stone bridge. But this is all the details. So here's one at Bowmore as well, of all the meetings that were happening on Islay at the time. So again, there'll be lots of whiskey history in here. And then this one is The History of Islay. And this is a book that was published at about the same time, so mid-19th century, and this is a history of Islay, the complete history of Islay. Again, you could pretty much do a whole video on these books alone, but let's just get past the introduction. And it's all these amazing historic documents that go back to the very earliest days on Islay, of when they were being conquered. And where is it? Let me just get to this one, because it's here. Yeah, on the sack of Islay by King Magnus Barefoot on his expedition to the Isle of Man. So this is in 1098. So this is the complete history of Islay, all the way from 1098 with supporting historical documents, all the way up until sort of like contemporary when the book was made. So these are awesome historical books, really important, really rare, and yes, they're not technically whiskey, but these are part of and intertwined with whiskey history. Next, right, I bought 200 Years of Laphroaig. There's not really many accounts of Laphroaig that exist, and these books, 200 Years of Laphroaig, they're only available at the distillery shop. So when someone went up there, they bought me 4 copies. Thank you. I mean, it's an awesome history, because there isn't too much, by the way, published about Laphroaig online that is really good. I mean, I know you've got Scotch whisky and stuff, but there's a beautiful chapter here that we used when we wrote an article about in Forbes about Betty Williamson, and it's just a really awesome book, and it really is a must-have book for any Laphroaig fans. Now, I'm not going to go down it all in order, so let's come down here, and while we're on Islay, let's take a look at this. A beautiful watercolour. Anyone recognise that view? I've kind of given it away a bit by saying it's Islay. John Wilson McKinnell. So it's a really nice, like this colour, the colour of the sea around the coast of Islay is absolutely beautiful. And then here you go on the back, we've got Paisley Art Institute, Kindalton Bay on Islay, £10, and I think this is probably, is it dated on the front? It's probably mid-century, 1950s, 1960s perhaps. But again, something like this, and it looks ugly as hell in this frame at the moment. It needs just reframing, and then you've got a beautiful print of Islay, and again, it's just something that I've never got around to reframing and hanging, and it's absolutely gorgeous. But again, like people say, why collect all of this stuff? Well, you know, my background was antiques. I was an auctioneer for 10 years selling proper real antiques, not just whiskey. And you kind of get a bit of a love and appreciation for things that aren't necessarily, you know, it's the history that's tied into these objects, not just the objects themselves. And that's kind of what a lot of people who just think whiskey's for drinking miss. They don't get the history, they don't get the fun and the kick out of collecting and finding something. And let's go for this. Again, you're going to see a lot of Macallan here. Why the hell do I have so much Macallan stuff? Well, because you know what? Macallan have been one of the only brands that have been doing this for a long time. Again, I'm ridiculously annoying. Look at this, the Macallan. It is a beautiful, official, possibly shrunken Macallan lamb's wool jumper. And it's like, why the hell did I buy that? Well, you know what? Macallan have been making branded apparel for longer than anyone else. Macallan have been doing everything longer than anybody else, and that's why they're in the market position that they are in today. Now, one of the things that took Macallan to that market position was this. These are really rare, and we've got 3 of them. So this is the remarkable history of the Macallan-Glenlivet. Now, back when Macallan decided that before Macallan produced single malt, a lot of their whiskies went off for blending, and then they made a decision in the 1960s to start laying down stock to be selling as single malt whiskey. Now, when they did this, they commissioned a certain David Holmes, who you know an absolute fan of, and to make a marketing leaflet to send out to distributors like worldwide. So once they had this aged stocks, they would then be able to start selling that stock worldwide. Now, David Holmes, instead of simply putting like a little leaflet together, he made this amazing leather-bound folder, commissioned all these watercolours to kind of give an idea of the history of Macallan, but also the sense of place that comes with Macallan. Because if you've ever been up there, it's an absolutely amazing part of the world, and if you're a distributor in Italy or, you know, somewhere else, you might not have ever been. So this was a way for, you know, to sort of convey a real sense of place. And these illustrations by Sarah Midda, of course, this one is on the front of the folio 1. These are incredibly rare. I think there were only 100 sets of these made and distributed worldwide. And I just love them because at some point I'll probably get a set framed up to go on the wall, and if not, I'll just sell them. So come and buy them. You know, you frame them up. I don't need 3 of them, but it's actual, you know, we find a lot of these things hiding in plain sight. A lot of people don't realise the historical significance of these items. So I come along and sort of pick them up. Now let's do another thing. And yeah, let's go from, okay, so the very start of Macallan's history was the remarkable history of the Macallan-Glenlivet. So that was even before they were selling like the 18-year-old series and stuff like that. To, you've probably seen this one, well, you hopefully have seen this one before in a video. It's my jar of Macallan breakfast orange marmalade, 10-year-old, goes against all of the whiskey regs by the SWA, and I'm not so sure I'd want to eat this now, but it was only £1.85 a jar. But what's the point? Why should you give a damn about this? Before Macallan were partnering with Bentley, like they are in 2024, they were partnering with bloody, who's the brand on this? Hudson's International Limited. They were partnering with Hudson's International Limited to get their name out there. And you know what? They weren't afraid to hustle, and they've gone from branding marmalade to branding with Bentley. And you know, that's what a lot of these new distilleries that are coming up, people seem to think there's a lot of potential in a lot of the new distilleries. And while there is, like, unless you're putting down really deep foundation, you've got to put down those deep foundations, and you're not going to have an overnight hit. You've got to be doing this, making bloody marmalade like collaborations 20, 30, 40 years before whiskey even became a thing. So if you're looking at a new distillery now, they're never going to be in the same league as Macallan. Macallan have been doing this for so long and with so many different things, and that's why they've got the market presence that they've got today. Now, I've just realized as we're filming this that this is going to go on and on, so let's wrap up this first video here and then join us for part 2 when we've got a heck of a lot more stuff to go through, and it probably only gets better and better because there's some really important historical documents over there that any whiskey lover you're going to absolutely love.